Hello everyone, this is Caleb Simpson, and you are watching my walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild for Nintendo Wii U and Switch. In this video I'm going to be working my way towards Ridgeland Tower. Now, to get there there's a couple different ways. I'm sure that a lot of players, when they're looking at the map of Hyrule, they're thinking to themselves, oh okay, I have to come from like Great Plateau and work my way north, or they're coming from Central Hyrule and trying to work their way through there, sneaking past all the Guardian Stalkers. And both those options are just kind of okay. I would say that overall definitely the Satori Mountain area is the easiest. You can warp to the Mogwatan Shrine and then like sail to the northeast and go to that shrine there, and then continue on north towards the tower. That's pretty good. Otherwise, a lot of people probably started at Central Tower, and then a better option if you want to take that route is actually just go by foot, and then like take the road for a little bit, and there's actually like a little like bridge here. It's like just south of Karak Bridge. There is another stone bridge right here, and you can take that across, and there's actually a bunch of moblins there, and you can get through them pretty easily, especially if you have like a blizzard rod. You can just stun them and run right past them. It's not a big deal. But then it takes you to this whole upper area of Ridgeland, and then you can make your way to the tower, and it's pretty easy. Now, the last option that I think a lot of people don't realize is just north of Central Hyrule, there's actually this, like, open plain kind of thing. It's at a slant or whatever, and there's no road there, but you can totally run across it. It's pretty barren. There's nothing really super exciting there. So you can run by on foot, but it would just take a long time. But if you have a horse, especially if you have a fast horse, you can just, like, run all the way through this whole north area super easy, and you can get to over here to Ridgeland very easily. So since we're coming from this direction, my first priority is to unlock the Monya Toma shrine, which is really close to the stable here. So I just want to get this shrine unlocked as soon as possible, and it's a really easy one to do, so we might as well complete it real quick as well. This shrine is pretty straightforward. What you want to do is grab the nearby orb and then place it inside the first launcher. Now, funnily enough, I think that you can't actually launch yourself in the orb at the same time if you are holding it. However, it does launch you a little bit further if you're both separate. So you put the ball down and then also stand on the launcher itself, and then you can both go over, use your paraglider a little bit, and then use the second launcher to launch over to the third one. Now, defaultly, the third one is faced back towards the second one, so the ball will just launch back and forth over and over again. What you want to do is actually grab the ball. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can position the third launcher ahead of time by rotating it using the nearby crystal switch. Otherwise, something else you can do is you can just grab the ball. This is what I like to do, is I grab it while I'm on the launcher itself. So what you do is, as it rolls down, you can just grab it before it falls into the launcher itself. And if you set it down somewhere on here, then when you rotate it, then the momentum will make the ball fall off. But one way you can get around this is instead, if you place it inside this little crevice, inside the lower area, then it makes a little like cup for it so that it can't roll away. And this way you can rotate the crystal switch without having to worry about it. Now you can hit this with anything, so you can use regular melee weapons, you can use bombs, you can use arrows, whatever you want to do. This will rotate the platform. Now something to know is there is a chest on an upper platform. What you want to do is you want to rotate the platform twice so that the platform is facing towards the second launcher. At this point, you can run back to the first launcher and then shoot yourself over to the second launcher and then shoot yourself over to the third, but this time you will land on top of the upper platform of the third launcher so you can open the chest, which has a Thunder Blade. At this point, hop down onto the third platform, hit the crystal switch. This will rotate the third launcher towards the exit, and what you want to do is throw a bomb into the launcher, which will shoot it across, allowing you to detonate it, which will break the wooden barriers across the way. Now, once the barriers are removed, you can then take the ball and then put it in the third launcher to get it to the exit. And then at this point, you can either launch with it, or you can just walk by foot towards the door that is now open once the ball lands in the slot. I do really like my strategy of going with the orb. I think it makes me feel like I have a lot of control over what's going on. So it makes me feel like I understand what's happening a lot better, but it is overly complicated. A simpler method, a simpler route for this would be rotate the third platform with arrows until it's facing towards you, and then go, like, you step into first launcher, second launcher, you land on the third platform, open the chest, hop down, rotate the platform until it's facing towards the exit, then go back to the first platform, first launcher, and put in a bomb, then immediately come back and put in the orb. And so they launch one after the other, and then you just watch on the side of your screen as soon as the bomb gets there, detonate it, and the orb just immediately follows. And meanwhile, you're like standing near the exit ready to go. And so that would be a more streamlined way of doing that. That's maybe a little bit less confusing. I feel like my method was a little bit more complicated, but I like it because it makes me feel like I can see what's going on, and so it makes a lot more sense. But anyways, now that you have perspective, you can do it a little more streamlined if you like.
Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of The Horse Hunter. Today I have for you one of the best places in the entire game to find your high-quality steeds. This area is still in the dark on our map, but you can find it easily enough. It's uphill Lindor, and it's just south of Monya Toma. There's even a convenient path leading up to it, which isn't that hard to get to. I recommend you just keep your distance from the herd and then save ahead of time, and this way you can frighten them off, you can just easily load and try again.
Okay, I have to stop before this joke like overstays its welcome. I was thinking about how we're sneaking up on these horses up ahead, and I was like, oh, it reminded me of that show for some reason, and I was like, yes. So the joke had to be made. I'm sure there's some Aussies that are watching this that are face palming right about now, but so I apologize for that, but I had to do it. There was no choice in the matter. I was getting all excited once I started thinking about it. All right, so the first thing you want to do is save, and next you want to put on some of your stealth outfit, and if you have some of those, that's great. It will decrease the amount of sound you make, which makes it a lot easier to sneak up on these horses. Instead of ducking and stuff, you can just kind of walk up to them slowly. It's a lot faster. Anyways, if you don't have any stealth outfits, you can also supplement that with the stealth buff that you get from food, and the best place to get some of those ingredients is Hickley Woods, which is just south of Dueling Peak Stable and south of Kakariko. So you can get some silent shrooms there, cook up 5 of them, and it gives you a level 3 10-minute speed buff, which is more than enough duration for what we need to do here. So it's super awesome. So if you like to do the stealth route, then that would be the best ways to do that. Now, another comment, there is some enemies here. Unfortunately, as soon as the enemies appear, it will frighten off the horses. So something you can do, too, is you can kill the enemies first, preemptively, and then save after that, like go off to one side, and then save, wait for the horses to calm down, save, whatever. And then what will happen is the horses kind of reset their position every time you load, but the enemies will remain dead. And so as a result, you don't have to worry about, loading your game and sneaking past the enemies and the horses, It's just, you can just have one thing to deal with, and it's fine. One quick tip for you, too, is you can hide in some of the bushes, so I am ducking here. It's just to make sure that they don't see me. If any of the horses see you at all, it will frighten them all off, which is kind of annoying. You kind of have to wait until all the horses are facing one direction. When they're holding still, they kind of just, rotate around as they're, grazing here in the grass. So what you're better off doing is actually trying to sneak up on them while they're walking slowly. Occasionally, they'll just trot off, though, too, and, move to a different area of the field, and that just happens anyway. It's not because they're scared of you, they're just doing that anyway. But yeah, moments like this when they go off to one side and they're still looking the other direction, this is the perfect time to sneak up on them. When you successfully manage to grab one, just keep mashing the L button to soothe them, and then this usually takes a little bit over 1 wheel of stamina. As long as you have some stamina upgrades, you should have more than enough, otherwise you can use some stamina dishes, but I don't think it's that big a deal at this point. If you're following along with me, you should have more than enough stamina to do this, and you shouldn't have to do anything extreme. You could try running up to the horses. Unfortunately, a lot of them are a lot faster than you. Now, another comment about this too is, alternatively to sneaking, you can just shoot them with an ice arrow, which is a lot easier. I'm just showing the hard method so that you know, but yes, the much easier method is just shoot the horse with an ice arrow. This will hurt it. If you shoot it too many times, it will kill it. However, I think all these horses have enough health that you can shoot them at least once. So you should be able to shoot any horse. Just pick whatever one you want. It doesn't matter. I think that the colors are completely random. I don't think that there's any particular colors that tend to be any particular stats. So I don't think you need to worry about that. But anyways, once you finally gathered a horse, the easiest way again is shoot him with an ice arrow. Stand next to him. Once the frost wears off, just mash the A button to climb onto its back. And as soon as it wears off, you should instantly start soothing the horse, and then you're good to go. So next, I'm going to explain these stats. Now, when you bring a horse to a stable, then the stable master will tell you what stats that horse has, and you can decide whether or not you want to keep it. So the stats are strength, speed, and stamina. What strength does is it's the amount of health that your horse has, how many hits it can take before it dies. Speed is the total speed of the horse. That both includes regular walking speed as well as maximum speed. And then lastly, stamina is the number of spurs, which is the number of boosts you can use while riding your horse. Of all these different things, I feel like stamina is the least important. The other two stats are more important overall. However, it's up to you to decide how much speed you want. What I'm trying to show here is the fastest horse in the entire game, which is a 5-speed horse. Now, that is all great. But the thing to know about that, too, is if your horse is too fast, it almost makes them hard to manage. When you're in a big open field, lots of speed is great. But if you're in really narrow confines, then a really fast horse is actually kind of bad because it's hard to maneuver and you get stuck on stuff all the time because you're going too fast. So it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to get a fast horse or not. So next, I ended up killing this horse. I was trying to do it just to show. One of the things I was thinking, I was actually curious if it would, because it was a 5-health horse, I was curious if I smacked it once with one of my beefy weapons, if it would still be alive. But then I ended up hitting it multiple times. It didn't die initially. I thought it was just going to shatter immediately, but it didn't do it. So then I was curious what was even going on. I think it just breaks with these guys. Oh, actually, wait, maybe the Blizzard Rod would be a good way to catch your horse. I didn't think about that. We have the Blizzard Rod. That makes it a lot easier, too, rather than ice arrows. So if you go up to a field of them, you can just Blizzard Rod all of them. Oh, that's so ridiculous. So here's me trying to get the next horse. Now, as a quick comment, again, like the best way to get a horse is definitely to freeze it. So either hit it with an ice arrow or use the blizzard rod, and then you just stand next to it while it's frozen. You just keep mashing the A button. As soon as the frost wears off, you'll immediately climb on, and then you can just begin soothing it with L. So that's the best way. What I'm showing right now is the like normal hard way, and my reasoning for that in part is because I figure that people who are playing this game are trying to do this. They're trying to do the stealth route, and then they're like frustrated because it's not working, and so then they're like looking on YouTube and they find my video, and so I'm trying to show them how to do it. They're like, is this even possible? Instead of just being like, you're doing it wrong. I want to show them how to do it, you know, but also give them alternative methods as well. So anyways, that's part of why I'm doing this. Just so you know too, on video I am crawling. I don't need to as far as sound, like the stealth outfit does reduce my sound. However, I'm doing this for line of sight. As long as I'm not moving, if they look my direction and I'm ducked, then they don't run away. That's only true in tall grass, of course. If I was in an open field with like super short grass that they've been nibbling on, then that would not happen, of course. But anyways, in the tall grass, I'm just ducking for that reason. So as if the horse suddenly turns to me, I just stop moving and I'm totally fine. But like right now, I'm sneaking up on it. I could totally just like click off the left analog stick, and then I would stand up and I'd move a lot faster if I was just walking towards them. It still wouldn't make enough noise due to the stealth outfit, and it'd be totally fine. Anyways, I wanted to show that entire stealth sequence just so you could see like my process of sneaking up on these, because it's pretty hard to do that. But anyways, you'll notice too on screen, like look how much faster this horse already is. Like it's really fast already. I have like little lines skimming past on the edges of my vision with this horse already, and like that's way faster than the previous horse I already had. So I just went down the mountain with a 3-speed horse. This one is already significantly faster than that, so I probably have the fastest one. But yeah, the last horse I had was a 5-3-5, so 5 strength, 3 speed, and 5 stamina. This one is a 2-5-3, which is the fastest horse in the entire game. Unfortunately, it does not have a lot of health, so that means that it will die very easily, so I do have to be very careful with this one. But if I'm just wanting to like traverse some fields or whatever, this one is really, really awesome. So fast. But yeah, the stats on that previous horse I got, a 5-3-5, is pretty darn good. That's a lot of health. So if you're worried about it or you want to have a horse for combat purposes, that's great. In my opinion, though, you're only really using a horse for traveling anyways, and like I'm not going to be fighting on this horse. And if I'm getting hit with something, then I'm doing something wrong. Either I'm standing way too close to my horse, or I'm like standing too close to enemies. Like, I don't know. You have faster speed, you can just get away anyways, so I don't really think it's a big deal. So I'm going to go ahead and register this horse. This is definitely one of the highlights, I would say. Now, in my experience, I don't think the color of the horse matters. Mine did happen to be teal, and on my last playthrough, the fastest horse in the game was the same one, was also teal. So I don't know if it matters or not. But anyways, what I would recommend you do is name your horse something that is iconic that you will remember, that gives you like an idea of what this horse accomplishes, you know? So I made mine Sonic, which is kind of silly. But yeah, it is teal. Is teal even is there even teal horses in general? I don't think that's a coat color, right? So I'll just, welcome to a fantasy game, guys. Next, I wanted to talk about 2 more strategies for getting horses. So the first one is pretty obvious. You can land on your horse and just by sailing to it. There isn't really any tall places in this particular field, but this, in my opinion, has the best horses on the game. So there's not a really good place you can sail here, but you could use Rivali's Gale to get up really high and then land on your horse that way. It makes it pretty easy to get the one you want. Now, another method that I think is a little bit, one of the frustrating things about these horses is because there's so many of them and they're all in a herd together, then if one of them sees you, then it frightens all of them off. So it's really hard to sneak up on them without frightening them. It's almost impossible. So something else you can do is frighten them on purpose. Now, 2 ways you can use this to your advantage is, for one thing, they always kind of go back towards the middle of the field. So if you frighten them off on purpose and then just duck down in the tall grass, kind of in the middle of the field somewhere, then what happens is they'll all come to you. You don't have to worry about it too much. Now, unfortunately, you can't really move while you're there because they'll see you. However, you know, because they're facing towards you, that is. But if you are, like, kind of off to one side, you can sneak up on them, like, you know, kind of parallel to them, whatever. Like, walk with them, sort of, and sneak up on them that way. And so as they're coming back to the field, because they're walking really slow, one of the advantages of that is they're not going to turn around. The problem with, like, getting them when they're just holding still is they could turn around and see you. So if you can get them all separated so they're all in different corners of the field, then you can get one of them by themselves, like this, like I have in this recording, and it's great. By the way, you'll notice I am collecting some Thunderwing butterflies as well as some electric darners. These are just regular, I think it's just regular darners and regular butterflies, so like the warm and cold ones. They turn into the electric variety during thunderstorms. So if it is a thunderstorm and there's lightning and stuff like that, just take off all your metal weapons, and you can get some of these rare bugs if you would like to farm for them. Just so you know that none of those are needed for any of the upgrades in the game, for any of the armor upgrades. You don't need them. So if you want to get some just to complete your compendium, that is how you can find them. That's how you farm for them. So don't necessarily just change the time of day to avoid thunder all the time if you are wanting some of those to complete your compendium. Now you'll notice on screen this horse is pretty darn fast. However, because I already collected and kept the fastest horse, I already know it's not that one. Also, by the way, the reason I killed the 535 horse that I collected earlier was to make it so it stayed dead. Like, if you save and load, what happens is that any horses that you haven't actually brought to a stable and kept and paid and put a bridle on or whatever, then those ones will reappear where you found them. So it would have appeared back in the herd, and I didn't want to accidentally pick it again. So I killed it in order to whittle it down so that I didn't accidentally pick it a second time. That's why I did that, by the way, for those of you who are sad that I was killing a horse. Also another thing you can do too is if you get to the stable, otherwise, if you don't care about trying to whittle them down, that's why I was doing that, so I am actually running back and forth. Otherwise, what you can do is just load your game, because you'll appear back in the field with them before you pick your horse, and then just pick another horse. Now, by the way, their colors, their coats change color every time you load. I don't know why. I think that the numbers stay the same, or the same, like there's, say there's 1 253 horse, there's 2 253s, and there's 2 445s, or whatever, I don't know. Then there'll be the same number of them, but because their coat color changes every single time, it just randomizes their coat color. I don't know why it does that, but whatever. I think the actual numbers of them are the exact same. I haven't tested this super extensively. I did do this for like over half an hour, and I didn't want to redo it multiple times, but yeah, in my experience, though, the fastest horse has always been a teal horse. I don't know, just in my personal experience. I think that's just random chance, though. I don't think that that's actually a determining factor. But in case it is, you might want to try and get a teal horse if you are trying to get the fastest horse. Just as a side comment. So name your horse whatever you want, something iconic that will help you remember what this horse is good for. I named it Round because I consider the most well-rounded stats. It just has a nice even amount of everything. I would say overall the well-rounded horse is the best one in the game, just generally speaking, because it has a lot of health, so it's not going to die. It has decent speed. It's faster than the royal horse we've been using so far, but it's not quite as fast as the fastest horse, which means that it's a little bit nicer to use in tight corridors. You can get through there without bonking into stuff all the time and then getting yourself killed. And then also, it still has a lot of spurs, so it has a lot of burst speed as well, which is just really good. So all those things combined just mean it's a really solid option. So I think overall the well-rounded horse gets my vote for the best horse in the game in general. I'm going to be using the fastest horse, though, because I decided to try it for this playthrough. I feel like now looking back on it, that may have been a mistake, or at the very least, I think the fastest horse is good for this whole tower unlocking section, but maybe later when I switch to more fine-tuning, adventuring, where I'm going into, going to towers and then warping places and then, doing stuff in the forest and stuff, I would have been better to switch to the well-rounded horse at that point. By the way, another good horse is Epona. This one can be summoned using the Smash Link amiibo, and she's a 444 horse. The only other good thing about her, though, is the fact that she has a gentle temperament. I think what that means is that she doesn't ever toss her heads. The other ones are wild. Even after their trust gets really high, occasionally they will still, disobey you a little bit. They'll, rear their heads, and then they'll go off course a little bit. And Epona never does that, is in my experience. She will, stop when you ram her into something, of course. But other than that, she doesn't rear her head at all. So she's the most obedient of all the different horses, and so she's really a pleasure to work with. But anyways, she's a 444, so a little bit nicer than horse than that is the well-rounded one as far as a pure stat perspective. Regardless, you want to pick a horse that you want to use, and then ideally want to build up its trust value so that you can put on the ancient horse bridle and saddle so that we can teleport around with our horse. Would be super nice. So I'd recommend you do that before we leave. Now, you can just run around with your horse for a while, but you're going to have to go back to it directly or go to the stable every time to summon it, which is kind of annoying, and also it's going to be disobedient in the meantime, which is kind of frustrating. You can just run in circles, too, and keep doing this, but this will take quite a while. I think every time you soothe it with the L button, it will, give you something like 1 to 3 trust. I'm actually not sure entirely how much it is. You can check the trust value, by the way, by going to any stable and choosing the Take Horse option, and then from here you can summon your horse regardless of where its current location is in Hyrule, but also when you're just looking at it on that screen, it will tell you what the trust value currently is. So I currently have 41, and I was also just testing too, by the way, as long as I was here and I was curious how much trust you get per apple per apple or carrot you feed to your horse. Carrots are a little more rare. I would recommend you keep your enduring carrots and feed them as dishes instead in general, but you can also give your horse trust that way as well. But yeah, apples are super cheap, and it gives you 10 trust per apple, which is great. So one thing I have noticed about this is if I just take a whole handful of all 5 apples in my hand at once and I dump them in front of my horse will eat 1 or 2 apples, and then it doesn't eat the other ones even though they're right there. So I've had better luck making like a breadcrumb trail of apples. Anyway, you get the idea. Apples are by far the cheapest thing, and I had 41 trust, so if I feed my horse 6 apples, that will get him up to max trust. Super easy, really fast, you don't have to worry about it too much. So you can just steadily let it build up over time, but it'll take, 10 minutes or something like that of running around adventuring, and eventually it'll be there. But I think it's way faster to just feed him some apples. Like, who cares? Like, it's just one tree. Ooh. Now, I've mentioned this earlier in the walkthrough, but there are some chicks off to the right side of stables that will allow you to change your horse gear. Now, as a quick comment, this does require that your horse has max trust, otherwise you can't do this. So anyways, that was why I was doing all that, because I want to quickly equip the Ancient Bridle and Ancient Saddle. Now, these chicks are only found at specific stables, though. They're not at all of them, and I vaguely remember that there was one of them at the outskirts stable. So I warped over there real quick, and then I took out my horse and then brought him over to her so that she could inspect him and check the trust value before she would put on the gear. Now, this gear, by the way, is DLC only. I got it earlier on in the walkthrough, and what it does is it gives your horse additional spurs, which is nice. You're also able to summon your horse by pressing down on the D-pad. So instead of just like calling your horse over to you if it's nearby, you can summon your horse anywhere in Hyrule as long as you're in a horse applicable area. So I wanted to get that like all taken care of and out of the way before I continued on towards our next objective. So next I'm just heading south towards Ridgeland Tower, and along the way, at this point too, in the recording phase, I was streaming this as I was recording it all, and so people were hanging out while I was doing all the stuff. I was recording all the gameplay footage separate, but I was streaming like me talking to my chat and stuff like that on screen. But I was telling them at this point, I was like, man, I have this really fast horse, and like I'm gonna have to like adjust even further to like make sure when I'm on the road I don't bonk into trees and everything. And then they were like, you realize that your horse automatically snaps to the road and just follows it. You don't have to press any buttons or anything. You just use your spurs every once in a while, and your horse will automatically follow the road, right? Like, so this is the point when I realized that, because they told me about it, and I was like, I didn't know this! How did I not know this? And then I started doing that for the rest of the walkthrough and felt silly about it. But this recording reminds me of that, because that was the conversation that was happening, and my mind was blown as I was heading towards the tower. Alright, I know this might seem like a weird place to chop it up, but I want to have all the Ridgeland Tower stuff together, and I have like half an hour of stuff to rant about pins to put on your map here. There's tons of good stuff here in Ridgeland, so I'll be talking about that extensively, and I'll do that all in the next video. So, that all being said, that'll conclude this particular video. If you enjoyed it, then be sure to throw a like on it and subscribe for more content just like this. Remember to stay awesome, you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.